What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into this video. I'm going to be going over lower body mobility today, some exercises that I find super helpful and also progressible for pitchers trying to access deep ranges of motion on the mound. When it comes to mobility, the goal is always to improve range of motion, and what that allows you to do is to move more freely through certain positions. If you don't know who I am, my name is Kyle Kringen. I coach and develop pitchers fully remotely to gain velocity through the minimalist approach. And by minimalist approach, I mean I break things down to the core of what actually matters in order to gain velocity. So mobility is a factor in gaining velocity. It is not the end-all be-all, but it is certainly a factor that is worth putting effort into. And when it comes to taking the minimalist approach to mobility, that is what we are doing in this video. I'm going to be breaking it down quite simply for you and how you can approach it in your own training. So let's get into the video. The first thing that we need to talk about is the approach when we are doing mobility. When it's any exercise, it really doesn't matter. If you are training mobility, the goal is from your first rep to your last rep, doesn't matter how many, but from your first to your last, there's a noticeable difference in range of motion. So the process by which you gain mobility over the course of a set is going to be determined by your intention with it. So if you have the intention every single rep of I'm trying to maintain the posture while my joints are getting pushed into a further range of motion and gaining a little bit of extra freedom over the course of the set, then you're going to see a noticeable difference from the first to the last set. So the approach that I like to take with my athletes and myself is the ground up approach, meaning we hit each joint one by one going up the chain. We're going to start with the ankles here. And the first thing to note is that we want to keep the heel on the ground when we're doing this one. And we're actively trying to get the knee past the toe as far as you can possible. And this is going to help with your squats or any knee flexion exercises that you do. That's why I like it as a prerequisite to doing any squat or lunge exercises where you're going to want that range of motion and that freedom. So heels on the ground, what we're going to do is put some weight, your own body weight, or you can use an external load, put it right here on the knee, but you're going to push as far forward as you can and press actively down into the ground here like you're doing a calf raise. Push against the floor. The heel's not going to come up. You're just going to act like you're pressing to the ground. And then you're going to relax and push a little bit further. Try to relax the body as you do that. Push into that end range. And then repeat the process. Push into the ground, relax, and then push a tiny bit further. And you can just repeat that process until you see that noticeable difference in range of motion. So we're going to take that same approach all the way up the chain for everything that we do, active reps here. Next one of my favorites is going to be the world's greatest stretch. And I like to call them world's greatest stretch lockouts because what we're going to be doing is trying to lock the back leg out with good posture here. So for your setup, we want to be super strict, and I'll face the camera for this one, but we want to be super strict with hips facing forward, both hips. And then what we're going to be doing is trying to, again, make sure the knee is lined up with the toe, so everything is good here. And then we're going to place the hands here, or you can be on the fists. But now I'll move to the side. Again, what we want to do here is make sure that the back is totally straight as much as you possibly can. If you need yoga blocks here, that is perfectly fine too. I use those a lot. And the goal, as you can see, my knee is on the ground, and I'm going to be trying to wedge my hips down like this and get a neutral spine. So neutral spine here, shoulders back, proud chest. And then from this position, I already feel like it's a little bit tight. And now I'm going to be actively trying to lock out my back leg with my upper body, maintaining that posture. So I'm going to push through that discomfort until I lock that leg out. And you're going to see the hips rise a little bit and back down. So that's a rep right there. Every single rep, you're trying to kind of wedge yourself back in and get a little bit better with your form. If it's really easy and you're just, hips coming up like this, just easily locking it out, you're not doing a good enough job with your intention. And that's one of the biggest problems I see with pitchers doing mobility is there's no intention. They're just going through the motions. If you really are doing mobility work the right way, it's going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable. And most guys don't want to push through that discomfort. And that's why they don't see the results they want. So here, wedge those hips in. Nice exhale. And then lock that back leg out, try to push through it. If you want, you can do a little hold, get used to that position, then drop it back down. Release, relax, get ready for the next one. Lock it out and drop it back down. So you can repeat that process until it looks honestly perfect. So wherever your starting point is, you ideally are trying to get to this back straight, leg straight position here, and it feels comfortable. That's what we're shooting for over time. And that could be in the session. Sometimes I need to just regain my mobility, but it can be in the session or it can be just over the course of many sessions. But you are actively trying to achieve that ideal position right there. So the next one is going to be hip external rotation. We're going to be particularly facing the front leg for this one. We're going to assume the 90-90 position, 90 with the front, 90 with the back, both knees on the ground. So from here, the biggest thing is keeping the posture to where your back is straight, shoulders are back, chest is proud, and we are going to be actively hinging at the hip here. So we're going to feel the glute of that front leg. We're going to be hinging at the hip as far as you can. When you feel that good stretch and you can't go any further with good form, that's your cue to come back out of it, relax, and then hinge back into it. Try to get a little bit further every single time. So that is the goal there. And I'll show you the main mistake that I see from this position is when guys are, lackadaisically doing their 90-90s, they're going to be here and then collapse the chest. And they're like, oh, I can do it. No, you can't. You got to straighten up and then do it with good form. You're going to feel that stretch way sooner. If you want to add a little bit of rotation in there as well and kind of rotate into it, that's good as well. You're going to feel that stretch even more. So that's going to be external rotation. And I will show you the progression with the external rotation. The goal as far as progressing external rotation is to make that 90-90 super easy so then you can progress to pigeon variations. If you go from here to lifting that back leg, making it straight, coming up on the toe, boom, that is going to be your progression. And we're always looking for 90 degrees in that front leg. If the heel starts to come in a little bit, you're going to lose a little bit of the function of what we're trying to do here. So we want to maintain that 90 degrees. If you want to hold the heel down, I like to do that as well. But from this position, it's the same process. Now it's just a little bit more difficult trying to keep that back leg straight, back straight, and we're hinging into it. Much more difficult to get deeper on this one. Right here, hinge, hinge, hinge. And come out of it. So active reps, trying to get deeper and deeper every single time. The next one I'm going to talk about is internal rotation. Internal rotation is going to be super huge for pitchers specifically because that's what's going to allow us to hinge into that back leg, rear leg load and gain a little bit more range of motion so we don't have to solely rely on trunk rotation. We can also use the hips to create a little bit more space. Assume the 90-90 position again, but this time we're going to be facing over the back leg. And from here, we want to use the hands for assistance if we need it and try to assume that good posture, chest up, back straight. And then from here, a lot of you guys might be in this position at the very start. This is where I'm at currently. But if you're here, the goal is to drive this knee down into the floor. So if you need to ease up a little bit, that's too tough. You can rock back, kind of lighten up on the upper body posture and focus more on what the hip is doing. But how you progress it is getting more and more close over that front leg with a proud chest, neutral spine. So if you can work towards that, just driving that knee down over time, getting it closer to the ground, that is going to improve. You can combine the internal, the external, start throwing hip extension, just play around with movement. So that's the beauty of having mobility is you can freely explore movement and understand where the power is coming from, where the energy is being created, and how that transfers over to the mound is now I understand what positions I need to get into, how I can flow into them freely and then explode out of them violently. We can start with, that rock forward, drive the hips up, press the hips forward. That always feels great. And then from here, you can sit it back down with no hands, open it up, swap to the other side, press the hips forward here. And for this one, to keep that neutral spine. You can also hold on to a kettlebell or some type of load in front, interiorly loaded, so you can maintain that posture a little bit better as you go through. Okay, next one, we're gonna be talking about the adductors a little bit here. We're going to be getting a very wide base, trying to keep this foot planted here, toes facing forward, and this knee is gonna open up out to the side as much as you can. Now, if you want to focus more on the adductor, then what we're gonna do is make sure that this foot is brought in a little bit, so that way you can focus more on the adductor than the hip internal rotation. You're gonna be limited by the internal rotation. So bring that foot in, and then we're gonna be working the adductors a little bit more. So we're actively pushing back onto the hips with a neutral spine, and then pushing out of it. So keeping the posture as we go is the most important thing here, and pushing past that discomfort. We wanna add in some internal rotation, bring that foot right back out. And now you're not gonna be limited by this, but you're also gonna be more so limited by your internal rotation, but you get a little bit of a 2-for-1 adductor slash internal rotation here. So I'm obviously a lot worse at that one, but you can use the same process to get better at it, and then eventually do the other leg.